Story 1. I don't pretend to be a scientist and know all the scientific reasons why there is no God. I was raised vaguely spiritual. My mother believes in God but dislikes organized religion. As a teenager, I was friends with a strong atheist who influenced my perspective. But what really changed my views was when my 17-year-old cousin, an extremely devout Catholic who made sure to attend church on vacation, volunteered in the choir and played the organ, developed horrible bone cancer. It quickly spread to his lungs and brain, and he was gone within a few months. If someone who wasn't even given the chance to become an adult and devoted so much of his life to God can be taken away so young and in such a painful way, not only for him but for his little brother and loving parents, then either there is no God or that God is not worth my time. You prove to me God is real, and give me a chance to talk to him. The first thing I would say is, cancer in children? If he is real, he is not worth my love. If he is not real, then whatever. Don't give me any of that mysterious ways excuse either. Story 2. If I treat people well and follow the golden rule, then if there is a God, I will be fine when I die. If there is no God and I simply cease to exist, then I won't care anyway because I will be dead. Story 3. We do not know if higher beings exist, why we exist, what lies ahead, or anything at all. However, what we do know is that all concepts of gods are essentially superhuman figures, not truly higher beings. This suggests that they were created by our minds. Therefore, even if higher beings do exist, they are definitely not what we worship. Story 4. There is no God, just narcissists who believe their God favors them over dying babies. It is shameful, actually. Story 5. There is no evidence for any gods, and it appears to be impossible, like ghosts, astrology, and fairies. Story 6. My God is the living God, and I know he is real because I have felt him. Without him, I would have been dead a very long time ago, and there is no other force or power that could have saved me back then except for him. Story 7. There are thousands of people claiming their truth is absolute. How are you supposed to discern which is correct? Story 8. It is strange that the universe possesses the property of being intelligible, allowing us to understand aspects of it. It seems to follow laws and exhibit symmetry, yet there is no reason for it to be this way rather than another. It is also peculiar that life is so focused on propagating information through DNA across generations while resisting entropic forces that would lead it back to a base, unintelligent state of energy. Even more intriguing is that the one organism best equipped to understand the properties of the universe is also deeply interested in finding ways to connect with the inexplicable, even across civilizations that are unconnected to one another. These phenomena cannot be adequately explained by probability alone. They are better understood through some form of intention, design, or purposeful fingerprint. Story 9. Atheists cannot prove a negative, such as the existence of God, and religious individuals rely solely on faith. Therefore, arguments are unlikely to convince anyone. Story 10. The argument that there is no evidence is weak for atheists. If we were living in a simulation, you would have no way of knowing, and that possibility is very real. Is a supreme being that can conceal its existence really any different from the creator of a simulation? I do not doubt the possibility of a supreme being. There is simply too much we do not understand about the fabric of our reality and why things exist if there is no greater meaning. But the question I have posed to my Christian friends is this. The Bible states that you have free will and also claims that God is omniscient. How can those two statements be true when they directly contradict one another? Story 11. My strongest argument for God is that I am too tired to investigate the reasons for God's existence. I believe in God because it gives my life meaning. I need God to motivate me as I struggle to define my own morality and existence. I am just one person. I cannot define myself alone. I rely on the collective belief in God to find my identity. Story 12. Currently, there is no evidence for or against a deity. However, I wonder what kind of deity would make animals need to tear each other apart in order to survive. Story 13. People's religious beliefs are strongly dependent on the culture in which they grew up. For example, an average Christian raised in ancient Greece would likely have worshipped the Greek gods. There have been thousands of religions throughout various time periods and regions, If a God existed, I believe that religions would have more consistent beliefs with one another. Additionally, there is no evidence for religion other than personal testimonies. Story 14, to believe or not is a choice. You choose to believe there is a God or not. I say this as a true believing Christian. You decide, then act according to your beliefs. If there is a God, he does not need me to convince you about believing. That is the divine's task. Mine is to be obedient to what I profess to believe. If my life shows you love and compassion, you may see God as loving and compassionate. But if my life shows you some negative behavior, well, we all see that. It also isn't my job to defend God's actions because I can't possibly do it. Not from a human point of view, and that's the only one I've got. If I believe the Bible to be true, I have to trust that God knows what he is doing. That too is my choice. So I would say choose who you associate with, and anyone who insists that you believe the things they do may not be worth spending time with. Educate yourself, look for the good in people, and avoid those with harmful intentions. Story 15. I pray to all the gods just in case. It takes all of my time, but I'm sure it will be worth it in the end. Story 16. How do you define God? If you describe God as a divine, omnipotent being who created us in his image and judges us, you can only support that view based on your faith. However, if you define God as the forces that set in motion the entire universe, create natural balance, and are the laws that govern space, time, galaxies, and everything they encompass, including the cycles of life and death and the natural tendency for systems to move toward entropy, there is no argument against this definition. Story 17. There is no evidence to support the idea that it has ever answered any of your prayers from the beginning of time to the present. The world is in a very poor state. Story 18. There is no need to defend the position that there is no God, as there is no evidence to support the existence of a God. Story 19. I'm not foolish. If people want to engage in their fantasies in their own homes or even go to a tax-free building to take part in their activities, that's fine. It's no different from me reading a fictional book at home or going to watch a movie in a theater. It's those who preach their beliefs to others that cause problems. Ironically, many openly religious individuals can be among the most difficult people to deal with. Story 20. There is no evidence that religious individuals have lower rates of disease and death. If there was a higher power listening to their prayers, they would at least exhibit lower rates of disease compared to non-believers. Additionally, there are many religious believers who display unpleasant and immoral behavior, and some may even pose a danger to others. If religion truly made people moral, we would see evidence supporting the idea that it contributes to better character, but such evidence is lacking. Atheists are underrepresented in prison populations. Story 21. The individuals who use God's name to commit terrible acts have not faced enough consequences for my liking. Story 22. Every past religion has eventually become mythology. I see no reason to believe the current ones will not follow the same path. Story 23. Erase all science from existence and it will grow back pretty much exactly the same. Erase all religion from existence and we will have a multitude of new religions. I will choose science every time. Story 24. For God. A universe created by a chaotic reaction has become far too orderly to be a coincidence. Against God, we cannot prove the existence of higher beings. Story 25. My reason for not believing in God is that there is no good evidence for the supernatural, let alone for God. Every argument I have encountered for the existence of God strikes me as obviously unsound. The character of every religion I have ever seen appears to be clearly human-made. If you are asking about arguments against the existence of God, particularly the all-powerful God, I would likely highlight the problem of evil and suffering, as well as the issue of divine hiddenness and religious confusion. Story 26. I would say that nature is God, and love is God. Nature is my creator, and all the good parts of my mind were shaped by love. I worship these two things in life. Do I think there is an almighty entity in the universe? Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. In fact, I'm not sure if I know anything. I believe I know certain things, but I really can't prove any of them, and that's okay. Story 27. If there is a God, then why are the people who believe in him often unkind? If heaven is a place filled with believers, I would rather be in hell. Story 28. The burden of proof does not lie with non-believers. It is on those who think something that has no proof exists within the parameters they define. I cannot understand people who essentially demand that everyone believe in their version of Santa Claus. Be good and you are rewarded. Be bad and you are punished with no evidence that it exists. Story 29. Babies can get cancer or even be born with it. They can spend their entire lives suffering and may die before growing up, putting both themselves and their families through that suffering. If there is a God, either he is incapable of preventing this and therefore not all-powerful, or he is unaware and therefore not all-knowing, or he doesn't care and is therefore not all-loving. Story 30. There are no arguments for a God based in reality or fact. Additionally, there is no argument to disprove a claim that lacks proof. Story 31. Nah, life is too short, and I am not trying to save you from the Vatican or anyone else. This earthly realm is the true damnation of man. The church had far too much of a lead for me to deconstruct one's entire perception of life, as we have been enslaved to it. It will all be in the book. Story 32. I don't think I could make an argument either way. However, religions were entirely spoken by human mouths and written by human hands. One could argue that there was an original message from a deity. However, it has been repeated by us. Therefore, there is a good chance it has been corrupted by the people who spread the message. Story 33. There is no shareable proof of either existence or non-existence. It is an unproductive argument. Either believe or do not. Story 34. All the evidence people have provided for a supernatural being is either outright false, unverifiable, or a placebo. This applies to all religions. Story 35. The problem of evil exists alongside the fact that religions frequently change their beliefs to accommodate the desires of humans in different eras. Story 36. Anthropology clearly shows us that religion is how humans attempt to understand the world around them. From heavy rains being seen as the anger or blessing of Tlaloc to an especially hot day being attributed to Ra not receiving enough tribute. Modern religions, all of them, are based on something that came before. Catholicism is well known for adopting pagan rites to facilitate conversion. Many Islamic stories overlap with other major religions. Even the story of the Messiah is not unique to Christianity. Jesus was absolutely a real person, and there is irrefutable evidence of that. However, his mystical powers of healing and wonder were most likely metaphors for tremendous wisdom and foresight, and perhaps even a deep knowledge of herbs and salves. There is no such thing as God. There is no tangible evidence of manifestations of a higher power. Biblical and Quranic stories are metaphors and teachings meant to be memorable and awe-inspiring, guiding us to be better people to one another. They haven't always succeeded at that, I'm afraid. What people feel and experience from him is within their minds, stemming from a desire to believe. The human mind is immensely complex and powerful. Story 37. Personally, I find the teleological argument for God the most compelling, where it states that the nature of our universe, its finely tuned properties, and the complexity of its systems, particularly life, point towards a creator who had purpose in mind. I won't delve into it further since there are thousands of books that cover it, but one aspect that has always struck me is the fact that our universe has laws and constants. If we were the product of chaos, why should the speed of light be constant? Why don't the fundamental forces of nature fluctuate at all? The innate order in nature is very fascinating to me. I would also like to mention Jesus of Nazareth as a strong argument for God. Although there is a wealth of evidence to support Christ and his resurrection, much of it is quite powerful. I find that many people are simply uninterested or unimpressed for some reason, as if Jesus is comparable to any other religious leader or holy man, when he is absolutely not. Story 38. Nature's creation and the perfect placement of the earth to the sun and the moon to the earth are not accidents. Story 39. After a lifetime of being an atheist, I discovered I was wrong when I started practicing meditation. I gained profound insight into the nature of reality and realized that what I experienced had to be the same as what monotheistic religions call God. There is no argument that can be made in favor of God that is convincing. It has to be experienced firsthand. For me, there is a reproducible path to that experience. Meditation focused on non-dualism. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.